again, which is SB 421. I have incorporated into, I have asked you to take the amendment suggested in comment number 3 in the committee about that the overpayment interest rate should fall below the underpayment interest rate rather than equalizing them. Do you accept that? I believe you do.
Madam Chair, I will accept those as author's amendments.
Thank you.
And I want to say that this Senate Bill 421 is about equity. It addresses the rate of interest that the law allows taxpayer overpayments made under the Board of BOE's tax and fee program. This bill simply allows the BOA to pay taxpayers interest on their overpayments at the rate of 4% as proposed to be amended by the bill today. And historically, that has been the case. Back as early as 1937, in the middle of the Great Depression, a law to amend the BOA's major tax program, the Sales and Use Program, was enacted to in fact allow interest on overpayments. I have with me today Ms. Margaret Shedd here on behalf of the Board of Equalization to answer your questions.
Correct. And the policy basis for this is that we want to conform to both the IRS and FTB's policies and practices.
And these proposed amendments will go a long way in doing that. The board,
Ms. Shedd.
The Board of Equalization has sponsored this a measure to equalize the interest rates 10 times in the past 20 years. While I understand the budget constraints, this amendment will go a long way. Right now, the difference between what we charge taxpayers is 7%, what we pay back on refunds is 0%. So this will change that to at least charging 4% on overpayments, but still charging 0 or paying 0%. So that differential now is more in line with the differential in discrepancy that IRS and FTB have.
Okay.
Thank you.
In support.
Suzanne Sutton, California Taxpayers Association, also in support.
All right. Further support? Opposition? All right, seeing none, comments from the commission or from the committee or a motion? So moved. It's been moved. It's to pass as amended to appropriations. Would you like to close?
I ask for an aye vote.
All right, please call the roll.
Wolk.
Aye.
Wolk, aye. Huff. DeSaulnier. Fuller. Hancock. Hernandez. Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe. Aye. Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa. Aye. LaMalfa, aye. Liu.
4-0. You need one more vote. We will keep it up until the end of the committee. Oh, all right. 5-0. You have enough.
Fuller, aye.
5-0. You have enough votes for the bill to emerge. We'll leave it open so people, those who aren't here, can vote.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Correa. Now, there's been some movement on this bill. SB 847, item 18. We're considering this today, and your proposed amendments will be taken.
It's going to be double first.
It's going to be re-referred to rules.
So he can commit to taking the amendments.
So we need, yes. Okay, Senator Correa, why don't you begin?
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief, and I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Christine Murray from Anaheim. I'll tell you what we're facing in the city of Anaheim. As Senate Bill 847 is amended, creates a 600-foot buffer zone between marijuana dispensaries and residential neighborhoods and residential usage areas. As amended, mock-up form, I believe addresses a lot of the concerns of the committee and the opposition. Ms. Murray, if you can explain to them what the impetus of this bill is.
Yeah, but with regard to what's being changed, the approach is being changed. Right. So,
okay.
Okay. So the local control issue, which is the major issue of the bill, is being changed. So the presumption is that the 600-foot barrier for schools or residences would be in effect unless the locals amend.
And if the locals amend, that takes precedence over this.
Okay. That's
okay.
correct.
So you begin.
And Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Chris Murray. I'm with the Anaheim City Council, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify, and I will be brief. I just want to share how important this is to not just the city of Anaheim, but a number of cities that we've talked to that are looking for some additional resources to protect neighborhoods. And we've had a proliferation of medical marijuana dispensaries in our actual neighborhoods, in residential neighborhoods, in cul-de-sac streets where the traffic increases dramatically at all hours of the day and night, where children are afraid to play or ride their bike, where the clients of these dispensaries are coming out and smoking heavily in cars on the street. We had an incident with one particular neighborhood where the dispensary opened up downstairs in a house that's actually zoned for home-based business, but upstairs was a family with a brand new baby, literally weeks old, and they had secondhand smoke billowing up into their residence. And the mother came with her newborn baby to our city council member meeting crying and begging us to do something. The children, we had 17 children from Chestnut Street come and speak at our city council meeting and ask one by one, bravely, under the age of 10, stepping up to that microphone and asking their locally elected officials to help them because they didn't feel safe on their own street anymore. Senator Correa came and attended and met with these residents and attended a public forum that we held so the community could come and speak and feel heard. We met with the senator about crafting this legislation, not as an attempt to preempt the Compassionate Use Act, but as an opportunity to provide some local government control, some options for governance to protect neighborhoods. And we greatly appreciate your consideration of this measure, would greatly appreciate an aye vote. And thank you. I'm available for any questions.
And again, clarifying for the committee, we've dealt with our jurisdiction, which is the local control issue, and eliminated that concern by the amendment that you've committed to take.
That's correct.
But it will go back to rules because there are other issues involving the constitutionality and some other litigation issues. So it will go back to be referred to other committees to deal with some of these other issues.
Thank you.
Okay. In support of this measure, please come forward. I see somebody moving. Witnesses in support? Come on down.
Good morning, Chair and members. Dorothy Holzem with the League of California Cities. We have no position at this time, and we're very encouraged by the recent amendments that were offered by the author, again, to ensure that there's no preemption of local control and land use issues. Thank you.
In support? In opposition? Oh, come forward. Welcome. Sure. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Lynette Davies with Crusaders for Patients' Rights, and I wanted to come forward on this bill simply because what we're looking for is rules and regulations that are going to benefit both the public and the patient. I have some concerns with this bill simply because I know that it's the Senator's intention to work directly with the establishments that are opening up in retail, but one of the things his bill specifically states which is a little different than 2650. It said, in 2650 it said, and has storefront mobile retail units which ordinarily require a local business license. His bill does not even state that. It actually just prohibits any medical marijuana cooperative, collective, dispensary operator or establishment in a residential zone. That's a real concern to me because patients are given the right to have their medication and distribute and to collectively cultivate in their own personal residence. And so it's in conflict right now with Proposition 215. But I know that, and I'd like to thank Senator Carrera for coming forward to help try to make some of these rules, but I don't think this is the one. Some of the things that they just mentioned as far as City Anaheim, other cities are also struggling for this. But our rules need to more define like the operating hours so that there's not people out running around. There needs to have some rules and restrictions that are going to apply to some basic needs that are going to meet it, and that is what we're looking for the legislation to do for us. Thank you.
So you'll continue to work with the Senator?
Yes, definitely.
And I will continue to work with the opposition to address their concerns.
Thank you. In opposition?
Hello, yes, my name is Don Duncan. I'm the California Director of Americans for Safe Access, the nation's largest medical cannabis advocacy organization, and we also support the sensible regulation of medical cannabis patients, collectives, and cooperatives. However, we don't feel like this bill is the appropriate approach. Combined with AB 2650, this bill could serve to choke off access to collectives and cooperatives, legal ones that are trying to obey the law. And so we are very concerned about the large buffer zone. We've seen impacts in Los Angeles, San Diego, and Long Beach. that push these facilities outside of the usual commercial zones, which are very often adjacent to residential. And let me add, we would certainly never advocate for a patient's collective or cooperative in a residential housing unit. That simply doesn't make sense. However, the commercial corridors in most large cities do back up to or are often adjacent to housing, and these are appropriate places for people to come to receive services or to purchase goods. They're also places that are easier to be policed and accessed. So we don't want to push safe access to the shadows or to the outskirts. I think we also have to be very careful in terms of local land use. There are characteristics and circumstances in communities that might call for different regulations, and while this new amendment, which is very appropriate, will allow for that, I think setting a 600-foot standard may in fact become a de facto standard, the same way we saw with the Medical Marijuana Program Act and the now defunct plant and possession limits. So I would urge caution in that regard, but thank the Senator for working to help regulate this issue, which is long past due. I would, however, today ask you to reject 847, and let's find a better solution for patients.
All right, thank you. Further witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, comments by the committee? Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Correa, for the bill. I think it's a good step in the right direction, and I count myself as a supporter. I wish we could duplicate in your bill the same type of zone as you would have for a dairy. As these things generally don't. Yeah.
What? You lost me.
You heard him right. He said
the dairy zone, for
cow rights.
If you can't be any closer than a dairy, for example, when you sign a new dairy. But these things generally make pretty poor neighbors for people that are not partaking of this product, and the traffic, the smell, and the whole thing. I've received numerous complaints about where this has basically been the Wild West since Prop 215. And so I appreciate your first step, and I would like to hope that this is a step of stronger regulation in this area ongoing, because it's just out of control right now. So thank you for the bill.
Is that a motion? Thank you. It's been moved and re-referred to rules. Further questions from the committee? Would you like to close?
I ask for NIGO.
All right. The recommendation is to pass. It's re-referred to rules with the understanding that the amendment concerning local control will happen there. All right. Please call the roll.
Wolk?
Aye.
Wolk, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. DeSaulnier? Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe?
Thank you.
LaMalfa? Aye. LaMalfa, aye. Liu? It's 5-0.
5-0. That has enough to pass. It is. We will leave the roll open for those who aren't here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senators.
Okay. Senator Simitian. SCA 5, a familiar bill, item 22. The recommendation is to pass to elections, reapportionment, and constitutional amendments. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. As the members, I think, know, we, under existing law, allow for the approval of school bonds by a 55% supermajority. And under existing law, we allow for local parcel taxes to benefit school districts by a 66 2/3%, a two-thirds requirement for local parcel taxes. This measure simply provides that a measure would be placed on the ballot so that voters could determine whether, as they did in the year 2000 with respect to school bonds, when the voters made the judgment to reduce the two-thirds requirement to a 55% requirement, this measure would allow them to exercise the same judgment about a 55% threshold for local parcel taxes. Now, there's a wrinkle here that I want to clarify for committee members and also for debate in the future. We have left in place the existing two-thirds system for parcel taxes. This bill is an opportunity to provide an additional use, but it doesn't take away the two-thirds. So if you want to use the two-thirds in your local district, particularly if you wanted to use the two-thirds to get approval from your voters for an amount higher than this bill authorizes, you would still have the ability to do that pursuant to existing law. This bill, however, if approved by voters on the state ballot, would authorize a 55% supermajority rather than a two-thirds supermajority, but only with a number of fairly rigorous protections in place. First, it would require a two-thirds vote of a Board of Trustees to place the measure on the ballot. And just to be clear, yes, on a 5-member body, that means 4 of the 5 members would have to vote to place it on the ballot. It also would require that the measures at the local level contain a specific list of programs, an annual independent audit, a citizens oversight board, exemptions for seniors, and perhaps most importantly, a cap of $250. The measure simply puts this measure would simply put this measure before voters on a statewide ballot to let state voters decide whether local voters could decide, by still a supermajority, how their own community would spend their own funds on their own kids. I would just point out that if the state can't or won't fund public education adequately, the least we can do is give local folks a tool they can use to do the job themselves. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. In support of the measure.
Good morning, Senators. Deborah Brown with the California School Boards Association, and we're in support. I think the Senator said it best when he pointed out that this is allowing local voters to decide how much they want to invest in their schools and what they want to make that investment in. And given the recent cuts that schools have undertaken, they've lost a lot of programs that parents and families and communities value, and this would help let them reinvest in those particular things. And also, that it, like Senator Simitian pointed out, it does have some protections, and also that polls have shown strongly that voters, when asked, will invest in their communities and their schools, and so we think this provides them an option to do so. Particularly when you look at how many local parcel taxes fail, and they have like 63, 64, 65% of the vote. So that's clearly a supermajority. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Dave Walrath, representing Small School Districts Association, and many of the association members that are individual school district supporters of the bill. The bill, as a matter of policy, is very consistent with the policy that was adopted for school bonds, where there's a limitation on what can be raised by a 55% vote, but still allows a community to go beyond that limitation with a 2/3 vote. That was passed by the voters. This bill is consistent with that. It provides, as a cap on the 55%, a means of equalizing access to wealth. So it is consistent with the other types of policies we've had in the way of raising funds for schools. For these reasons, Small School Districts Association is in support.
All right. Identification only, please.
Madam Chair, members, Jeff Frost, representing the California Association of Suburban School Districts, in support.
Thank you.
Monica Nestroza on behalf of the San Diego Unified School District, in strong support. Thank you.
Good morning, Lynn Fox on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers, in strong support.
Okay. Laura Preston, Association of California School Administrators, in support.
Christina Dillon DeCaro, representing the Association of Lowell Schools, in support.
Madam Chair and committee members, Bonnie Slauson, representing the Community College League, and we too are also in support. Thank you.
Haley Corliss on behalf of the California Tax Reform Association, in support.
Dennis Myers, California Association of School Business Officials, in support.
Brad Strong, Children Now, in support.
Anna Strauss, Santa Clara Unified School District and Santa Clara residents.
Joni Santos, the parent of 3 school-aged children and a member of the middle class.
Thank you. In support.
In support.
Good.
Richard Wong, I'm a parent from Santa Clara Unified School District. I'm in support, and I represent a district-wide network.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kathy Watanabe on behalf of Santa Clara Unified School District, in support. Thank you.
Further support? I see someone. No? Further support? All right. In opposition? Okay.
Madam Chair, members, David Wolf here again with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We're opposed to the bill, obviously. 5 key reasons why we're opposed this morning. Number one, this does water down Prop 13's 1% cap. Many of you see on your annual property tax bill that your property tax rate is 1.2 or 1.3%. That 0.2 or 0.3 is precisely because of approval of these local bonds and parcel taxes. And certainly anything to water down that 2/3 threshold of Prop 13 we're not in favor of. Number two, as the committee analysis notes very well, it allows individuals who don't pay property taxes, including renters, to approve it. And we just believe, again, if homeowners and individuals are going to tax themselves, then they should be the only ones to vote for it. And because of that, we think a two-thirds vote is additionally important. Number 3, as the committee analysis also notes, it's very regressive in that whether you own a one-bedroom house or a $1 million mansion, you pay the same amount of flat parcel tax. Number 4, voters don't want it. We saw this in particular with Proposition 88, a Reed Hastings sponsored measure that established a $50 parcel tax on homeowners in 2006, and that was rejected with 75% of the vote, one of the largest defeats by any initiative in the 100-year history of the initiative process. And finally, we wonder if the bill is necessary. According to information and data from the California Taxpayers Association, who I think will speak in a minute, voters approved 39 of the 83 parcel tax measures before them, local voters, in 2010. Now, again, this includes all parcel taxes, not just education. But, again, that's about 40%. And as the committee analysis notes, going back 25 years looking just at education parcel taxes, that approval threshold is also about 40%. The point I would like to make there is that far from being an insurmountable hurdle in that we need to eviscerate Proposition 13, this threshold has proven to be very achievable, again, with a 40% success rate. So for those reasons, we'd ask for your no vote.
Okay, in opposition.
Thank you. Gina Rodriguez with Caltax. Caltax believes that students do deserve a high quality of education. However, the parcel tax is not an equitable method for funding students' education. As David pointed out, it is highly regressive, onerous tax structure. It runs counterintuitive to basic fundamental theory of taxation, and that is that taxes should be based on an individual's ability to pay. Parcel taxes, as you well know, are specific dollar amounts levied on every property in a given taxing district without regard to a taxpayer's income. When differing factions of a population dispute the virtues of taxation, a two-thirds vote ensures direct democracy unites the populace rather than creating animosity. For this reason, we oppose. Thank you.
Identification only, please.
Christopher Carlisle with California Association of Realtors. For all of the reasons already stated, we are in opposition to the bill.
All right. Further opposition? All right. Comments by the committee? Is there? Senator.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
how would this?
Excuse me, the senator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Next senator.
Well, I could yield to my taller colleague, but I'll go ahead. Yeah, I certainly associate myself with the comments of the opposition. And additionally, I know there is a desire among people to fund education. And I believe that is the heart of where you're going with the Senator Simitian, although it certainly is broader than that. And yet, I think there's so much more we can do within education, and I keep pounding this drum, and I'm not getting an answer because I keep running up against the public employee unions. But I do believe that we should be contracting out non-classroom services. We could save $300 million statewide. I do believe we should remove the restrictions for volunteers to take care of library or other simple things, but we protect jobs with that. We could actually contract out state jobs that are not necessarily has to be done by state employees. It's estimated we could save $3 billion plus that way. And yet we are only confronted with we need to raise taxes because we can't fund government. We can't fund government because we're not doing it smart. I supported an earlier issue that would do a commission. I hate doing new commissions, but if it can prioritize the state's infrastructure needs, that's a step in the right direction. We don't do a good job of that. We also don't do a good job of using the money that we have well. We need to use the money we have well with zero-based budgeting, performance-based budgeting, other things that are based on outcome rather than just how much money you throw at it. But this is yet another way to, I believe, fly in the face of what the voters have repeatedly said. In fact, some of the data that I show is from 1983 through November of 2010, voters approved 289 parcel taxes in 542 elections. So that's a higher threshold than the 40% that was outlined earlier. That's a 54%. The bottom line is those of us in self-help communities know that when we articulate how we're going to spend the money and we make that case, people will fund it. The same thing is true on these. If we make the case that we're going to spend it well, they believe in it, they support it. If they don't, they don't. Lowering the threshold just means that, and I agree also that renters should not have a say in this because they tend to be short-term and they don't have to pay it unless it's passed on by the property owner to them. Sometimes you can't do that. But for that and many other reasons, I think this is, I understand the desire to have more revenues. There are other ways to do that rather than violating the spirit of Prop 13. Thank you.
Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you. I'll just keep a brief question on this. We have in the past situations where with neighboring or nearby districts, one has a different level of taxation and revenue than the other. You have can run into legal implications where a district that is lesser funded may indeed cause litigation in order to overcome what the voters did not provide for. And how would we not continue down that path with this sort of legislation?
Through the chair, would you like me to respond
Yes.
to individually? Thank you.
Yes.
I think, Senator LaMalfa, that you're referring to the equalization issues raised by a series of court cases from the 1970s, beginning with Serrano versus Priest, Serrano 1, and its successors. It's important to go back and look at the cases and read the cases to see what the court did and did not say. The court did not say that we cannot have differential levels of funding between districts. If the court said that, we'd be in a serious world of hurt right now from a legal standpoint. What the court said was that it was unconstitutional to have it was unconstitutional to have a differential rate of support that was wealth-based. That is to say, based on the ad valorem, the value of the property within a particular district. Precisely because this is not an ad valorem tax, precisely because it is a parcel tax, as all of the opponents continued to point out, it is not a wealth-based disparity, and therefore it does not run afoul of Serrano.
Okay. Further questions? All right. Is there a motion?
Could I?
Yes, in your close, you may. But first,
you.
I want to get a motion.
Thanks.
It's been moved.
Madam Chair, I want to take a minute to respond to virtually each and every one of the comments that have been made in opposition. Senator Huff said renters should not have a say in this. That, of course, is a change in existing law, and the irony is that it's inconsistent with the spirit of Proposition 13, because it was Proposition 13 that created parcel taxes for local school districts. Prior to 1978 and the adoption of Proposition 13, we did not have parcel taxes for local school districts. So to berate the parcel tax and or to suggest that renters should not have a role is to berate Proposition 13, which said we're creating parcel taxes for school districts and we're letting renters vote. Now, I would make the argument that, of course, renters should vote. I think any free market business person would acknowledge that when there is a cost to a landlord, that cost gets passed on to the person who purchases their services, as it does in any business setting. So, of course, renters are actually paying the cost of that, just as they pay the cost of the financing, the landscaping, and the maintenance. All of those are costs that people in the real estate world absorb and then pass on necessarily and appropriately to their renters. That's the business model. So, but let's not castigate parcel taxes or renters when they are, in fact, a function of Proposition 13 approved by the voters in 1978. The suggestion has been made that parcel taxes are regressive. Really? All of us live in communities where folks with identical homes, side by side, have someone who pays $500 in property taxes for their home, next to someone who pays $10,000 in property taxes for the identical tract home. $500 at one address, $10,000 right next door. But when we suggest that there might be a parcel tax of $100 per home side by side, that's considered regressive and inequitable? I don't think so. In fact, most of the homeowners that I know in that setting, the $500 person's going to say, you know what, I've gotten a hell of a break over the years and I can afford another $100. And the person at $10,000 in their home is going to say, you know what, if I can get an even share of the obligation and responsibility for funding schools when I've been paying 20 times as much as my next door neighbor, I think that's a pretty good deal. So let's keep in mind when we toss that phrase around, what the current context of property tax fairness is for homeowners in California. The observation was made that voters don't want it, and there was reference to a $50 parcel tax measure. I think it might have been helpful to committee members to remember that that was not about whether or not a local parcel tax could be passed with a 55% majority. That was about a $50 tax on a statewide basis that didn't have the protections that we're talking about. And by the way, it was a campaign that was abandoned mid-campaign by the original sponsors. So it's hardly a comparison. If we want a comparison about what the voters have said, the voters were asked in 2000, do you want to knock down a two-thirds majority to a 55% majority for school bonds? And the voters said yes. And I'm suggesting that we let the voters say yay or nay, thumbs up or thumbs down, on exactly the same question with respect to parcel taxes. Finally, the question is it necessary? Well, I don't presume to say whether it's necessary. That's the decision I want to let local folks make. Different parts of the state will have different views about whether or not they need the funding. And again, I want local folks to make local choices about local needs. I'm not going to be drawn in, Madam Chair, to the conversation or debate with my colleague about the many other things we might do to make our schools more efficient. I will just say that I hope I'll have support on both sides of the aisle for the data bills that I've been pushing in the past with only lukewarm support from both sides of the aisle, because that's a way to bring real accountability into the system. And so I'm hoping there'll be some consistency about the concern for accountability as we look at data issues going forward. There's a fundamental question here. Do we or don't we think that local school districts who are underfunded by the state of California ought to be able to adopt these measures by a 55% threshold? The data that the senator cited says that more than half have been successful. Important to go on and say, guess what? 92% of the remainder who lost had majority support in their communities. And 72% of the remainder would have won with a 55% threshold, which would have meant that they still won with at least a 10% supermajority, which in most electoral contests is called a landslide. I'm looking forward to seeing how many members of the California State Legislature get a two-thirds vote once we have a set of reapportioned and redistricted lines in the next round of elections. And I'd be curious to see whether there's a proposal to say that no member can serve unless they get a two-thirds vote in the California State Senate or the State Assembly. I appreciate the committee's patience today. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. And the motion was made by, we have a motion? Yes, we have a motion. Senator Hancock to pass to elections, reapportionment, and constitutional amendments. Please call the roll.
Wolf?
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Huff?
No.
Huff, no. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Fernandez?
Aye.
Fernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. Liu? Liu, aye. 6-3.
6-3, that bill is out. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Senator Hancock, we now do committee bills. Senator Hancock, we are now, we must be out of the room within the next hour. We have 10 bills left to go, and I'm no more 4 minutes. We're going to restrict the amount of time to 2 minutes aside. Senator Hancock, and since it's all committee bills, I feel very comfortable doing that. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. SB 310 is a voluntary option for local governments to encourage transit-oriented development in infrastructure financing districts. It will help further the goals also of SB 375, which aim to reduce vehicle miles traveled by coordinating land use planning and transportation planning, helping us meet both our housing goals and our clean air goals in California. SB 375 created transit priority projects, buildings which must have a minimum of 20 units an acre and be within half a mile of a transit station. This bill would enable cities and counties to move forward in a time of tight credit, little money for affordable housing, bond money used up, etc. SB 310 will specifically conform to Senator Wolf's SB 214, which I believe we'll be hearing a little later, and simply expands and fills in some of the details about projects eligible for the tax increment under transit priority projects. This will essentially allow participating developers to have expedited review, increased density near transit, and receive reimbursement through the property tax increment for low and moderate housing and for permit expenses. Participating developers will agree to build green, pay prevailing wage in larger projects, design and construct buildings to energy efficient standards, and a variety of things related to parking, from unbundling the parking and car sharing and transit passes if they're available in the community, and bicycle parking. There will be continue to meet with stakeholders as people define what they need and want in these infrastructure financing districts. I would request your aye vote, and with me today are Cesar Diaz, the Legislative Director of the California Building and Construction Trades Council, and Michael Deedon, President of Creative Housing Associates, a neighborhood and transit-oriented development developer.
I would ask you to be very brief.
Yes, sir. Cesar Diaz with the State Building and Construction Trades Council. We're strong supporters of this legislation. Like similar bills heard in this committee this morning, this is an alternative way of getting projects off the ground and is in compliance with AB 32 and SB 375. The incentives that would be provided to developers should be promoting for more jobs, more construction, especially getting our members back to work, and an effort that complies with statewide policy and environmental. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. In support. Very briefly.
Good afternoon. Michael Deedon with Creative Housing Associates. We do transit-oriented development throughout the state of California. Time is our enemy in trying to build transit-oriented development. The project that I built in Senator Liu's district took 7 years. We're now doing one in Santa Rosa. I'm in my 5th year, and we haven't broken ground yet. What this bill does is it helps us move the project along more quickly. It helps to strengthen the public-private partnership arrangement that is critical in the success of this type of development. And I encourage an aye vote, and I want to thank Senator Hancock for proposing this.
Okay. In support? All right. And in opposition? Briefly.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Members, David Wolf here again with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Just briefly, again, as a matter of policy, we believe any long-term debt obligation of 30 or 40 years, such as infrastructure finance bonds, should continue to be subject to a 2/3 vote. And so we would be opposed to the removal of that threshold. We'd also like to mention that IFDs, unlike general obligation bonds, are also unsecured debt. And thus, if anything goes wrong with them, they will be subject to potential general fund payoff over time if something goes wrong with that repayment, and all the more reason thus why that should require a 2/3 vote. So we're opposed. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Kathy Lynch, representing the American Forest and Paper Association, the American Wood Council, would like to say that we are not opposed to the policy of this bill, but we do seek amendments to the bill to the LEED standard that is set forth. The National Association of Home Builders and Green Globe's residential and commercial certification programs are as stringent, and in some cases more stringent, than the LEED standard, which doesn't recognize forest certification programs. It discriminates in that way. And LEED is also would set California on a course of a monopoly because it's a private entity that owns the LEED standard. So we would urge the author to expand the bill to include the other certification programs so California can have a choice.
In opposition?
Madam Chair, Anthony Thomas, representing the California Forestry Association. Much as my counterparts' statements as well, we are in concert with that to expand the wood certification portion of the bill. We like the bill. We think it's moving in the right direction. Taking care of greenhouse emissions and sustainable communities is something that the state needs. But to restrict on one particular certification is just unpalatable today. So we'd like it to be more expanded to include entities that are certified Sustainable Forest Initiatives, SFI. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opposition? All right. Senator Hancock, I support the approach. As you know, IFDs and the transit priority projects. My only concern is that I think that this list of requirements needs to be looked at more carefully. One size does not fit all for communities that might choose to use this IFD. So I would urge you to be as flexible as you can with respect to all of these list of conditions. So that's it. The questions from the committee. Senator Huff.
Yes, quick comment. I have some concerns that this repeals the voter approval required for an infrastructure finance district. I also, it's expanding it to finance low, moderate income housing, and I think that's a significant policy shift I have some concerns with. We certainly have redevelopment agencies. In some cases, with a lot of that money sitting on a pile, we need to do a better job of redistributing that to get it to where it should be rather than making it easier on this. So that, and for some of the witnesses' comments, I have to oppose this.
Okay, any further comments from the committee? All right, is there a motion?
I'd move the bill.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator DeSaulnier. It's to pass and re-refer to rules. Please call the roll.
Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Huff.
I didn't get to close.
No. DeSaulnier.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to close?
I just want to say,
I
point out
it was
that
it was so
in connection with your comments, Senator.
Close, please.
Senator Wolf.
We have to be out of this room at 1.
I apologize. That it is a due pass to rules, and the reason is there are about 3 other committees that want to look at this bill.
That's correct.
Because there's great interest in the list and how it's constructed. I look forward to working with all of them and working with the forest products people so that we get something that really maximizes all our opportunities. Would ask for your eyeball.
And then there was a motion and thank you, Senator DeSaulnier. Please finish calling the roll.
Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Kehoe? LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. Lou, aye.
4-3. It needs one more vote to pass, and the roll is open for the absent committee members. Thank you, Senator Hancock. Senator DeSaulnier, you're next. We'll do, at your request, item 15 first. Item 15 is SB 803, Voluntary Contribution Youth Leadership Project. Isn't that going to...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members. Thank you for letting me present SB 803 today. This is another bill. I've had a bill, I think, every session, and it's something personally important to me and was in local government. And the challenge is from my perspective, is to get young people, particularly young people who don't traditionally get involved in civic engagement. We've tried a number of bills, and you'll see in the legislative history, we've tried a number of ways to do this. So this is to allow for people to use the checkoff list on their income tax to develop hopefully at least $250,000. And in previous incarnations, the bill would have actually created a youth legislature that would be modeled after the senior legislature. In the veto message, the previous administration talked about those programs being duplicative of other endeavors. We don't feel that's true. I've gone to other states and worked with the National Conference of State Legislators, talked to authors in other states who have created similar bodies, but having had trouble with this and having a competing piece of legislation in the other house where we want to continue to work with the author of that bill, I thought that we would change our approach this year and basically create the fund, and with the chair's suggestion, I should have started off by saying that we accept the amendments, and I think they're very positive ones, to move the oversight of this fund over to the Superintendent of Public Instruction, who would be the chair of the committee, collect the funds. There's a 10% administrative cap on the funds, and then they would basically allow scholarships and grants to young people from disadvantaged communities and diverse constituencies to participate in any program. And they could be programs like the YMCA program, African American programs, Latino caucuses supported programs, and that would be at their discretion under the guidelines provided in this bill. So with that, I appreciate you listening to the presentation. I will turn it over to our witnesses who are anxious to testify.
Good. Welcome. Those amendments will be taken in the Rules Committee. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Camila Baker. I'm a member of the Steering Committee for California Youth Empowerment Network, which is called CIAN, and I'm a youth advocate and peer mentor for Turning Point community programs. I also happen to be a former homeless youth. I'm here to support State Bill 803. I believe it was because of my involvement in civil engagement youth programs and other similar programs that has given me the ability to be here today, gainfully employed and able to advocate for other disadvantaged youth. I have personally seen and experienced that giving youth the skills and platform to speak for themselves can transform lives. When you give youth the opportunity to have input in the policy and programs that affect them, it creates better laws and outcomes for those youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. In support?
My name is Desiree Alarcon, and I'm a former foster, juvenile justice, and homeless youth. I am here today representing the California Youth Empowerment Network, or CIAN. CIAN is an all-youth steering committee made up of youth from all over the state who have lived experiences. Therefore, I'm here representing their voice in full support of Senate Bill 803. Senate Bill 803 would offer youth like me a chance to participate in civic engagement and policy making. Young people often get opportunities through school or extracurricular activities. However, for disadvantaged youth, this is not always an option. The youth that would benefit from this bill would normally not have the opportunity to participate in programs like this due to cost restraints and lack of access. I believe that every youth should be given the chance to learn and become better citizens and future leaders. If SB 803 was around when I was a foster, juvenile justice, or homeless youth, and I had been privileged enough to be a recipient of a scholarship from this fund, I believe that it would have put me on the path that I am on now, advocating for youth that are going through similar experiences as I did, only earlier with proper training. That is why I'm asking that you support Senate Bill 803. Thank you.
Thank you. In support, briefly.
My name is Heather Deering. I'm the Executive Director of the California Coalition for Youth, and we are a strong supporter of this bill. We are representing homeless youth and other disconnected youth throughout the state today.
Thank you. Identification only, please.
Amber Burkhan, I'm the Director for the California Youth Empowerment Network, which both Camila and Desiree are representing, also in strong support.
Very good. In support of the bill, further support, opposition, questions from the committee? Do I hear a motion? It's been moved by Senator Liu. This is due pass to rules. The amends will be taken there.
Yes.
All right. Please call the roll.
Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Huff? No. Huff, no. DeSaulnier?
Aye.
DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Kehoe? LaMalfa? Aye. LaMalfa, aye. Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. 4-2.
No. I'm sorry. 5-2. That bill is out. We will leave it open for the absent members to add on. Thank you very much. Senator DeSaulnier, item 12. This should be pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the interest of moving things along, but also reflective of our very eclectic legislative package, we go from disadvantaged youths to county assessors. And with me today is Phil Tang, the county assessor for the city and county of San Francisco, who explained the need for the bills. It was brought to me, and I'm carrying it. SB 507 raises the cap on the penalty for non-willful failures to file a change in ownership statement. Basically, we believe, and Mr. Tang can speak to this more specifically, that because the disincentive is so low right now, that the fines are so low, that people are not reporting. So for a variety of reasons, we want them to report, not only for the correct assessors' amounts and records, but also because we want people to be able to pay their responsible assessed value. So with that, I'll turn it over to the county assessor.
All right, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Senators, and thank you to Senator DeSaulnier for your leadership on this issue. This is quite simply a mechanism that will help us be more efficient in all the various county assessors' offices. It will help us process property tax assessment in a much faster fashion. At this time, we do have assessments that are slower because taxpayers fail to respond. We have a penalty that has not been raised or touched in over 30 years. The cap is a 10% penalty of the taxes that you owe, or currently $2,500 or $5,000 if it's not a single-family homeowner property. We're looking at to raise the cap to $5,000 for homeowners and $20,000 for other properties. That would be a cap. We believe that that will create a greater incentive to report. It will increase efficiency in our county assessors' offices. I know there are some concerns that this is a revenue mechanism. I'll tell you, for every county assessor, we have absolutely zero interest in using this as a revenue mechanism. We care much more about the information than we do about the actual fine. The fine would be levied within the county and would actually generate probably extraordinarily very little revenue. I would imagine in San Francisco, we're talking maybe tens of thousands of dollars versus the millions of dollars that it would help generate in better property tax assessment. So with that, we just ask for your support in helping close some of these loopholes, and open to any questions later.
Just to confirm that the amendments that
I
you're
will be
taking
taking
are
the
those
amendments, Madam
in
Chair.
the analysis item 6.
Sorry.
All right. Briefly, identification only, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jean Hurst on behalf of the California State Association of Counties in support of the bill today.
Haley Corliss on behalf of the California Tax Reform Association in support.
Okay. Further support? ID only? Thank you.
Opposition.
Oh, opposition. Well, any further support? Opposition?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gina Rodriguez with Caltax. I apologize we do not have a letter of opposition in, but we had been working with, we were hoping to get a letter of support in, but all of our issues are not addressed. So at this time we are opposed unless amended. First and foremost, we are very supportive of efforts to increase the compliance with the change in ownership rules, but a 400% increase in penalties is probably not the way to get there, nor is allowing more time. The problem with the failure to file notices going is not that we need more time, it's just that the counties need to send it to the correct taxpayer. They need it to get it to the correct address. LA County is pretty good at doing this because they send their notices certified mail, and that guarantees somewhat that it gets to the proper address. We've had taxpayers call the board trying to change an address so that they can receive notification, and the board has refused to do so. So it's an address problem at this point. Giving them more time is probably not the best approach. With respect to the penalty provisions, there is a huge inequity involved because the penalty is imposed even when there is no change of ownership, if you can believe this. So there's a penalty that goes out that's assessed even when the taxpayer proves there's no change of ownership, and the county assessors is unable to abate it. The taxpayer actually has to go through the assessment appeals process to get this penalty abated even when there's no change of ownership. These penalties are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, this is another problem we'd like the Assembly member to address in the bill. The penalties are based upon a taxpayer's entire property, all of the property, not just the property that had the violation of the change of ownership, not just in that county. So the penalties are quite steep. We are willing to continue to work with the author to try to get these issues addressed, and hopefully we can come on and support with this bill. Thank you.
I think the owner did expand, the author did expand the length of time in his bill. So further opposition. All right, questions from the committee? Yes, Senator Fuller. All right, Senator Huff.
Yeah, I had a question on, actually, that mirrored what was just brought up, but I was wondering if BOE could comment on that process. Or have you had that dialogue already, Senator DeSaulnier?
We're in communication with them, and we will continue to be.
Is that something you're trying to solve with them?
Yes.
Well, in the interest of time, I'll just skip that and just ask you to continue to work with it. I'm not going to support it the way it is, but I am supportive of the direction it's going, if we can get that taken care of.
I appreciate that.
Senator Fuller.
I appreciate the intent of the bill, which is to ensure that there's a speedy collection, makes our
bureaucracy is more efficient, but I won't be voting for it today unless you can help me with these questions that maybe I just don't understand, because my office, I have a very poor area, and my office is just the calls that we get about not being able to get their money back or getting a penalty on a huge piece of property, not just a small piece of property, or it goes on and on and on. And I have now voted just one person in my office up here, just to work on straightening those things out, because these are poor people. They don't understand what the rules are. They're moving a lot. They're losing their houses. They're being evicted from houses that are being lost that they were rented. And so this whole address problem is huge. If you send out address issues in my area, you get half of them back. I mean, anything in less than 2 or 3 months is a problem. So number one, this is on, if I understand it right, non-willful individuals. Now, willful individuals, when you increase the penalty, whether it's jail time or money, that works. But on non-willful individuals that don't even know what they did wrong, or they just can't be found because they're lost or whatever, increasing the penalty doesn't work. And it particularly doesn't work on poor people. And then if you look at the other side of the coin, the few rich people that, they're probably lost in space because they're busy. Okay, increasing the penalty on them probably doesn't work either if it's non-willful, but it's, to me, patently unfair to make it on all the property if there's only one piece of paper they forgot to file, or if there's something they didn't fill in. I mean, I'm guilty myself of not filling in every block on every piece of paper, and if I get fined on every piece of property that I have that I'm non-willful, and then, okay, now let's say that I do that. I don't fill out all the boxes. I'm up here. I don't get my mail in 45 days or 90 days or whatever it is. And then you figure out that you've made an error. Okay. Then now I can't just call and get it back. I have to go sit through a whole bunch of other issues and processes to get it back. I recently myself personally had to sort of jump through that hoop about 50 times to get something back that was an error, because I have a name like a lot of other people in California. So I'm frustrated because we do need to have an efficient collection of the fees that are owed us. But I think this is on the wrong group of people, and I think it's on the wrong issue, and I think that it needs more work. And so, I try to be quiet, but once in a while my emotion chokes up from within me, and I hope I haven't been too intense today. But I have poor people, and this won't work for me, and my load of people who are needing help to get their money back and are lost and confused will increase under this significantly. So no today. Unless
Senator, perhaps you'd like to address your concerns.
First of all, do you feel better? I'm happy to work with your office because of your experience. That's certainly not my intention. I'll let the assessor speak to the specifics. Our intention is to get more information in just the kind of environment you're talking about, where people are stressed, not to punish people, and certainly not to make the process even more complicated. So we will address those things, understanding that you're not going to support it today, but I think you bring up a myriad of really good points.
The change of ownership.
Very briefly.
The change of ownership statement is the actual second form. Traditionally, when people buy property, they fill out a P-Corps, and that's usually what title companies will submit. So this is the only if they refuse to submit the change of ownership after they refuse to submit the P-Corps, would they be penalized after 90 days of informing them that they owe this. So
why is it unwillful if they refuse?
Because the key to getting an accurate property assessment is to get information about the property. If we have to go and chase down every single property owner about the characteristics, how much they paid for it, it's a huge waste of county resources, county time.
What constitutes willful?
Right.
Willful would be somebody who specifically evades that doesn't answer our letters.
I'll help you get those guys. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Senator, if you would like to close first, do we have a motion? All right, it's been moved to pass as amended to appropriations.
Respectfully ask for your aye vote. Know that we've got some work to do.
All right. Please call the roll.
Wolk.
Aye.
Wolk, aye. Huff. DeSaulnier.
Aye.
DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? No. Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Kehoe? Lamalfa? No. Lamalfa, no. Liu? Aye. Liu, aye.
3-2, you need 2 more votes. The roll will remain open until all the members toward the end of the come to the end of the hearing. Senator Liu, you have a resolution, item 23. Oops, there we go. On the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. This resolution urges state and local governments and community organizations to promote education and awareness of the Earned Income Tax Credit, the EITC, in order to help working families persevere through difficult economic times. And I'm pleased to accept the committee's technical amendments. The EITC is a refundable tax credit designed to relieve the financial burden on low-income working families and stimulate the economy. EITC refunds can range from a few hundred to several $1,000s. When spent, these monies fuel the local economy. It's estimated that Californians fail to claim over $1 billion of EITC refunds every year. This resolution is one step to increase utilization of EITC. It's more important than ever to seize opportunities to help the working poor, and I ask for your support on this resolution.
Okay, in support.
Yes, I'm Tim Race, Executive Director of the California-Nevada Community Action Partnership. We represent the interests of community action agencies, migrant seasonal farm worker agencies, limited purpose agencies, and Native American agencies in California that serve almost 3 million low-income Californians. We are committed to supporting this bill to increase EITC participation rates by low-income Californians and bring hundreds of millions of dollars of new federal money into the state to stimulate the economy. We urge your yes vote, and we are in full support of SCR 12.
Okay. Further support.
Haley Corliss on behalf of the California Tax Reform Association. We support this bill because it would encourage outreach and education, which could provide much-needed income to working families. As previously stated, I request your aye vote.
All right. Further support? Any opposition? Questions from the committee? Is there a motion? It's been moved. We do pass. Do pass is the motion. Please call the roll.
Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Huff? No. Huff, no. DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Kehoe? Lamalfa? Lamalfa, no. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. 3-3.
Thank you, members.
3-3. That needs 2 more votes. We'll wait for the absent members. All right. Senator Huff, do me the honor.
We'll hustle down there. Yeah, let me just, while you're walking, a note to witnesses. We have to be out of here in 27 minutes, and we have to lift the calls and all that other thing. So we're going to ask everybody to stay very brief and focused so we can move this along. Senator, present it will.
This is SB 214, Infrastructure Financing Districts. This is an effort to give locals another tool to finance public infrastructure. Regardless, whatever happens with the governor's proposal about redevelopment, infrastructure financing districts, I believe, could play a key role in government finance. They're different from RDAs because they don't divert the school share of tax increment revenues. They don't take backfill from the general fund. They don't have eminent domain because their goal is to build public works projects. And more importantly, redevelopment agencies divert funds whether an agency likes it or not. IFDs are opt-in. Agencies must agree to participate and have their property tax diverted. They require local agency consent. And lastly, redevelopment agencies aren't subject to any vote requirements, but IFDs are. IFDs are clearly a more responsible and transparent financing tool. Current law makes it impossible to use that. I have with me Supervisor Gary Wyatt from Imperial County, Larry McAllen, the president of Southern California's Association of Governments, to testify in support of the bill and answer any questions. I ask for your aye vote.
Witnesses.
Thank you, Senator Huff. As you know, as president of SCAG, I represent 190 cities, 6 counties in the Southern California region, and we are concerned about job creation in Southern California. We've lost 1 million jobs over the last several years, and anything we can do to create jobs. This gives us the flexibility. This bill gives us the flexibility to as another tool for job creation, especially if the redevelopment agencies go away. Local government needs whatever help we can get for creation of jobs, and this is one area that I think we need it, and SCAG, although formally hasn't taken a vote on it, our legislative committee has, and SCAG Legislative Committee, and I'm sure the full council will support this bill, and we ask for your aye vote.
Okay. Thank you. Next witness support.
I'm Gary Wyatt, supervisor out of Imperial County, and this particular bill is, I think, very important into areas like mine, rural county that is one of the highest in unemployment in the state of California and has traditionally been so. It's been very difficult to change that particular status. I'm happy to say Colusa County is actually worse off than we are right now, but we change back and forth. So this bill is important whether redevelopment is stopped, changed, or declines, because this bill would help us in areas like mine. It allows local government to spend our own money. We're not asking to spend school money or anything else. We're asking the authority to take the money, the portion of property tax we get or that we would create, and use our money. And I think that the local government, if we're smart enough to create the money, we're also smart enough how to spend it. You know, it's tough to create something where nothing exists. In a lot of rural California, there's a lot of places where there could be something, but there's no revenue sources, there's no tools to actually create that. SB 214 gives us a tool, and I have an example of that. In my particular area, we have an area called Keystone Planning Area that it's about 7,000 acres or so designed for manufacturing and industrial purposes. We have dozens of companies interested in going there. The problem is we have no infrastructure. No water treatment. We have no sewage treatment. Streets, curbs, gutters, power issues are not taken care of. So the bill for that is $50 to $100 million. And so we're stymied by creating as many as 8,000 to 10,000 new jobs for that. This bill would create an opportunity for us to use an IFD to capture a portion of our property tax and use it as a revenue source to do that. We have 2 already existing IFDs in Imperial County. There are 4 existing. 2 of them are in my county. One is around the Salton Sea. Some of you may know there are a few other issues associated with the Salton Sea and why we may have not utilized the IFD yet. But we have, under former Senator John Benoit, we've just formed a fiscal committee, and they are looking to activate that IFD after this many years to help restore the Salton Sea. The other one is along infrastructure along the border, and we are currently looking at a plan to put forward to activate that. So we have 2, and we believe that they're valuable tools for us. Renewable energy projects is another area we have an idea how IFDs could help us to advance renewable energy projects in our county. So I urge your support of this. Not only do I support it, my board yesterday voted unanimously to support this bill as well.
Thank you. I'd like the other witnesses just identify your name and where you are on the position on this.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Christy Baumut, representing the California Professional Firefighters and many agencies that were, whether you like it or not, agencies, and we're support of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Deanne Baker, representing the California State Association of Counties, also here in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Kyle Packham with the California Special Districts Association, representing all types of special districts, including fire protection, water, parks. We're in support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? If you are, get up here quickly. Don't wander too slow. You're going to slam the door on your fingers.
Graham Brownstein with Transform in support of the bill.
Any others? Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition.
Mr. Chairman, members, David Wolf here again with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and I'll just associate my comments for this bill the same that I did with SB 310 because this removes the 2/3 vote for infrastructure finance districts. We're opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there witnesses against? Questions of the committee or by the committee? Comments? We have a motion. We care to close?
I ask for your aye vote.
All right. Motion is to do pass to what? Let's go next. Just do pass. All right. Call the roll, please.
Wolk. Aye. Wolk, aye. Huff.
No.
Huff, no. DeSaulnier. Aye. DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller. Fuller, no. Hancock. Hernandez. Kehoe. LaMalfa. Liu. 2-2.
Okay, it's 2-2. You got a few more. We'll keep that on call. Move on to your next bill. That's item 6.
SB 244. Mr. Chairman, I accept the technical amendments noted in the analysis. I'm very honored to be the author of one of the 6 bills in the Human Right to Water bill package. This is a serious public health and planning problem in California that we're trying to address. I'm handing out, whoops. Don't look at that. Let me look at this. Throughout California, there exist hundreds of disadvantaged, unincorporated communities home to almost 1 million people that lack basic necessities as clean water, sewage disposal, and other critical infrastructure. This bill will ensure that by January 1st, 2014, cities and counties begin planning for disadvantaged and poorest communities by updating their next general plan. The bill requires LAFCOs in the next revision of their 5-year municipal service review to identify disadvantaged communities and examine the water, sewage, and fire protection deficiencies within these communities. The plans would also look at methods of increasing efficiency of infrastructure and service delivery to those communities. These provisions will ensure that LAFCOs begin long-term planning to address deficiencies in the underserved communities. Planning is the first step to dealing with some of these deficiencies, and I will want to continue to work with those in opposition to this bill. This bill is sponsored by California Rural Legal Assistance, and Brian Augusta is here to testify and answer any questions. No, he's not.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Okay, we'll ask the witnesses of support. Limit yourself just to 2 of you, and then the rest your name and where you are in the position. Thank you. And keep it short.
Martha Guzman with California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, and you should have gotten these maps, and I'll just run through them quickly and give some more time to the witnesses who have traveled over 400 miles to be here today. This first map is one point I want to just highlight in terms of the discussion is that you'll see the city of Fresno in this map, and one of the disadvantaged unincorporated communities, the community of Jensen, that is adjacent to the city boundary of Fresno, but outside the sphere of the city boundary, yet it's adjacent. The second map is of a city of Tulare, and actually this map is a little outdated because now the city boundary goes adjacent to the blue community of Matheny Tract that is here today. So it is now adjacent to the community. And the third map that you'll see is a community in Santa Rosa. And Santa Rosa, this is a pretty large community called Roseland. And a point to make with Santa Rosa is that City Santa Rosa is elected at large. And so sometimes some of these council members or board of supervisors may not even be aware of the problem because they simply don't know that part of the city. And so this, again, is an importance for the need for the planning to be directed. And then finally, the city of Modesto. There are quite a few islands in this one, and they're the blue outlined boxes. Those are the islands. And just to highlight, because one of the community members is here in this final map, the community of Park Lawn. This community is extremely dense. It's denser than a lot of communities in the Central Valley. It's unincorporated, and some of these homes are actually sinking because of the septic systems that they've had in place for over 60 years. And so you'll hear from one of those residents today, and we ask you for your support of this modest but essential bill that will finally bring these legacy issues into the planning for the 21st century infrastructure to take place.
Okay. Next witness in support.
Voy a hablar en español porque en inglés sí hablo, pero se me quebra mucho. Ella me va a interpretar. Yo soy José Franco, vengo de Modesto, de la Park Lawn Community, y tenemos muchos problemas en esa comunidad. En primer lugar, yo tengo viviendo 40 años en esa comunidad y tenemos 12 años peleando al condado y a la ciudad para que nos añadan, para que nos pongan el sur y banquetas. Es lo único que les pedimos ahorita, ¿ve? Porque nosotros estamos ya, las propiedades están saturadas de agua Ahorita lo más malo que estamos haciendo nosotros es tirar el agua a la yarda o al ale o hacer hoyos más profundos que pasan el tepetate, agarrar la arena para que corra el agua, para que nos dure más, porque nosotros pagamos 240, 250 cada vez que nos vacían los tanques de agua, los septic tanks. Entonces esa agua que se va en los hoyos que estamos haciendo, yo digo porque ya hice uno, yo de 12 pies de hondo, agarra la arena y la agua se va, ¿a dónde se va? Se va a los pozos de donde estamos tomando el agua. Eso se está contaminando toda esa área y parte del condado también.
Gracias. You have translation?
Yes. So my name is Jose Franco. I am from the United Neighbors of Parkland, the Parkland community, and I've been there for over 40 years, but in the last 12 years, we've been in a heated negotiation or battle with the county and city trying to get their attention of our severe need for sewer services, as well as some other minor drainage and sidewalk issues, but mainly sewer being our main concern. Our soil is completely saturated. Our properties are sinking. We've had to take many costs, but also tasks on hand by ourselves in haphazard ways, like making holes that are beyond 12 feet deep, as well as constructing multiple septic tank systems. And again, it's because our soil is completely saturated. I myself made one that was beyond 12 feet deep, and the water and still I hit hard pan soil constantly over and over again, which adds to the cost. And we're having to pump our septic tanks, which adds to 250 plus of a constant cost that we're having to bear. And the saddest thing is that it doesn't only affect us, but our water table is also being affected because the water, our septic tank water, our waste is basically sitting where our water table sits as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next witnesses, please identify your name and your position on the bill.
My name is Linda Williams, and I'm from the Matheny Tract.
Thank you. And you are in support of the bill?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Next witness.
I am Antonio Cabrera, and I am in support of the bill.
Thank you for being a part of the process and coming today. Any other witnesses in support? Please make your way up here quickly. And
I'm Maria Sofia, and I'm also in support of the bill. I'm with the Community Equity Initiative, and I work with these scores of communities up and down the valley in support.
Very good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shioni Flegel. I'm here on behalf of PolicyLink, and we're in support of the bill.
Thank you. Next witness. Please move quickly, if you can.
My name is Reinelda Palma. Vengo de Martínez Tract representando a mi comunidad y pidiendo también apoyando a la 244.
Okay. My name is Reinelda, and I'm from the Martini Tract community, and I'm here asking for your support for SB 44. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Debbie Davis, Environmental Justice Coalition for Water, in support of the bill.
Mi nombre es Evodia Rosas, vengo de Modesto, de la ciudad de Modesto, del Vecinos Unidos de Parkland.
¿Le gusta?
Vecinos Unidos de Parkland. Y venimos a apoyar la CB 244.
Gracias.
My name is Elodia, and also from the community United Neighbors from Parkland, and I'm also here representing my community in support of this bill.
Okay, thank you. Next witness.
My name is Reverend Lindy Ramsden, and I'm the Executive Director of the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry in California. We are in strong support and glad to be a co-sponsor of the bill. Here's another 190 letters to join the other, I think, approximately 400
Thank you.
in
Next
support
witness.
of the water package.
Next witness. Somebody speak up.
Shelley Moskowitz. I'm the manager of public policy and mobilization for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. So I'm speaking on behalf of thousands of members that we have in the state of California, and also standing in solidarity with our grassroots partners around the state. We strongly support SB 244 and the Human Right to Water package.
Thank you. Next witness.
Lori Chen on behalf of Clean Water Action in support.
Okay.
And Vern Gehring on behalf of Food and Water Watch, pleased to support the bill.
Okay. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses against?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Bill Shia with the California Association of Local Agency Formation Commissions. We thank the author for her work on this bill and addressing the persistent challenges that we also see at LAFCOs around the state to addressing the inequities in provision of local services. CalAFCO at this point is not opposed to the bill, but we do have some significant concerns and appreciate the willingness of the author to continue to work with us on our primary concerns, of which is the substantial unfunded mandates for new studies of both disadvantaged communities outside of Sphere and for studying service alternatives in every service review, even those unrelated to the issues that we're talking about today. As written, the bill proposes a single solution to be imposed across a very diverse state with very different needs. These would add substantial costs to every LAFCO that would have to be assessed to every county, city, and most special districts. And again, we're supportive of the intent to address service inequities, but this is an exceedingly difficult time to increase costs to cities, counties, and special districts while they're trying to survive economically, and in most cases, the local governments have already significantly cut their LAFCO budgets. We are also concerned with many of the issues you just heard from the witnesses, but believe that doing the studies that are called for in this report are not going to result in any changes in services to any of the communities that you just heard about. We appreciate the amendments offered and have suggested several additional proposed amendments which we believe will significantly reduce the cost to LAFCOs, but still begin to address the issues and some potential real steps for some increase in community services. We look forward to continue to work with the author and on our concerns and help craft a bill that begins to fully address the challenges of service deficiencies in the diverse communities across the state while still allowing local flexibility.
Thanks. I'd like the next witness to keep it to 30 seconds or less. I apologize, but
That's
we're just
okay.
out of time.
Sandy George, representing the American Planning Association. We did provide amendments to the author. We appreciate them working with us. We think it's the right issue. We think the bill as it is right now is extremely broad. As Bill said, it's also way too expensive, and it isn't targeted. We definitely want to look at just the issues related to health and safety. A number of jurisdictions have been looking at specific plans to work with the communities, but without funding, we are just not going to get to the major infrastructure that that they would like to see in place.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Remaining witnesses against, please just list your name and organization if appropriate.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Deanne Baker, representing the California State Association of Counties in opposition.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. Kira Ross on behalf of the League of California Cities in the same position and echoing the concerns of APA and LAFCO.
Thank you.
Kathy Mannion, Regional Council of Rural Counties, also in opposition. Thanks.
Okay. Any other witnesses against? Seeing none, we'll close that part of it. And questions by the committee, comments? Seeing none, is there a motion? We have a motion. Care to close, Senator Wolf?
I would ask for your aye vote. I will continue to work with the opposition on this bill. Planning is the first step, and we certainly want to target it where it's needed.
Very good. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Volk?
Aye.
Volk, aye. Huff?
No.
Huff, no. DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. Liu?
It's 4-3. It's on call. Next item is, and we'll hold that, item 8.
342. Mr. Chair and members, 342 addresses two areas, attorney's fees and contingency fees in tax cases. This provides that the Revenue and Taxation Code is the sole means of calculating attorney's fees in a tax case, conforming to what is currently federal law. For example, in a recent case, the Rev and Tax Code would have provided an hourly rate of $162. Instead, the lawyers got $600 an hour under the private attorney general doctrine plus the multiplier. Given that our Constitution requires the FTB to fully appeal all cases, it makes sense to ensure that cases against the state don't go on indefinitely to inflate attorney's fees. 342 also prohibits contingency fees in tax cases. State law prohibits lobbyists from contingency fees because of concerns about potentially unethical behavior. State law does the same for placement agents at CalPERS. The Senate also passed SB 205 this week, which prohibits the signature gatherers for initiatives from being paid per signature because many have forged signatures. State law bars contingency payments in these cases because if the incentives are wrong, you'll get bad behavior. The IRS largely prohibits contingency fees on federal income taxes. 342 will correct this problem by conforming largely to the IRS regulation to address the problem of unregulated consultants filing highly aggressive tax refund claims, hoping not to get caught in the audit lottery. Sometimes tax agencies have the resources to catch questionable claims, and sometimes they don't. The consultants get paid in proportion to their client's tax refund, leading unwitting businesses into audits and often leading to big payouts when they don't get caught. When successful, governments have to make refunds out of money already collected and budgeted for, leading to more cuts. 342 doesn't abridge any taxpayer right to pay the lowest tax under the law, nor does the bill prohibit paying a consultant a fee or an hourly rate. Given these times of fiscal emergency, contingency fees in tax cases is something we can no longer afford. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, witnesses in support. Two speak shortly, and then we'll move on to the balance of our procedures here.
Yes, Brian Putler, Franchise Tax Board. The board is the sponsor of their attorney fee portion of the bill. This is a matter of federal conformity and ask for the support of the committee.
Okay, thank you. Next witness in support.
Joel Butler, Yolo County Assessor. In appeals process, we often see appeals filed by people that have very little credentials or anything, no ethics requirements behind them. So in some cases, you find the same person filing the tax return that later on comes up back and appeals the results of that tax return for a percentage of the refund that it creates. The audit function, actually, in some cases, we do a regular audit of large businesses. A lot of tax reps file appeals with our offices, and as a result, they delay the processing of the appeals until after an audit. If the audit shows a refund due to the taxpayer, the tax rep often receives a large percentage of this based upon having simply filed a sheet of paper, one single sheet of paper for an application for assessment appeal. That money that would have gone back to the taxpayer at the end of an audit regardless. Again, it's just ethics in question when the compensation the tax rep is receiving based upon the outcome of the appeals result comes into question. CPAs don't have that sort of result. They cannot work on a percentage of compensation.
Okay, thank you. Remaining witnesses, just state your name and organization if appropriate and your position.
We're on opposition.
Your opposition. Any other supporters?
Yes, Sarah Flox from the California Labor Federation in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Haley Carls on behalf of the California Tax Reform Association in support.
Okay. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses opposed? Again, two can speak, and then the rest just your name and organization.
My name is Johan Claes. I'm a former member of the Franchise Tax Board and Board of Equalization, and I represent the HDL companies, who are a lot like Ms. Boma's client, Muni Services. They're in the business of representing local governments, exclusively cities and counties, at the Board of Equalization in cases that involve the proper allocation of the 1-cent Bradley Burns sales tax monies. These companies represent cities and counties on a contingency basis to make sure that the money is allocated to the right city. The way a case like this might typically work is it could be a very simple case where a retailer has misallocated money on a very innocent mistake by having the wrong boundary down in a certain zip code or something like that. A case could also become an extremely complex case, as one that we've been involved in, where it could be a retailer who hires a consultant to put together a scam where they might be opening up a phony sales office to allocate sales tax monies to another city and get a kickback from that city for the sales tax monies. Cases like that take several years. By chance, just yesterday, we were at the Board of Equalization asking the board to change its regulations so that those types of cases no longer take 12, 7, or 3 years, but are sped up to get to the right answer faster. As a result, the HDL companies and their competitors typically do charge a contingency fee to save local governments money up front to make sure that the money is allocated to the right location in the end. I might just want to say that as a former Board of Equalization member, I would recommend that I'd be happy to work with the Revenue and Taxation staff so that perhaps they request from the Board of Equalization over a 1 or 2 or 3 year period to see what taxpayers are actually represented by attorneys, CPAs, consultants, and even nobody at all, because it seems the problem that is occurring is over at the Franchise Tax Board, but not at the Board of Equalization in its capacity as the state's tax court. And very often at the Board of Equalization, you will find small taxpayers who can't afford a expensive CPA or an attorney to hire somebody on a contingency basis who might be their bookkeeper or someone like that. And then if they lose the case, obviously there is no benefit to the person who filed what would be a very legitimate appeal. I might also say that at the Board of Equalization, when an income tax case comes before the board, and there were often frivolous appeals when I was at the board, these were often income tax cases by, for the lack of a better term, certain cult groups who felt that income tax was not constitutional in the United States or California, and we would routinely assess a frivolous appeals penalty to those taxpayers for as much as $5,000 to keep them from coming back in the future. So there are tools to deal with some of these cases, but I just wanted to caution Senator Wolk and the committee staff and the members not to overreach in this case and perhaps prohibit legitimate people from filing very legitimate appeals that
Thank you.
affect a lot
Appreciate
of
your
money.
testimony. Also, in the City Council that I served on, we used HDL because we had two different zip codes, and a lot of because they couldn't get UPS if they used the correct name. It was always something we had to sort out every year. It worked very well. They did it on contingency, and we ended up paying about $25,000 every year because they were producing much higher than that. Appreciate
Thank you.
that. And if you could keep your testimony short, I'd appreciate
Sure.
it.
Gina Rodriguez with Caltax, and I will only address the attorney fees portion of this bill, Code of Civil Procedure 1021, which this bill proposes to repeal. That is a statute that enables taxpayers of modest means to bring challenges in the public interest under narrowly defined set of circumstances, and it encourages attorneys to take cases to vindicate important constitutional or public rights. In tax cases, 1021.5 actually protects taxpayers from government overreaching, where the state enacts an illegal tax, such as we saw with the invalidated LLC fees, and the state fails to protect the public against these illegal taxes. We see in the committee analysis did reference the Northwest Energetic case, which was the LLC fee case that the courts invalidated. The committee analysis does discuss the attorney's fees awarded, but it wholly fails to discuss the enormous tax dollars paid by California taxpayers under the unconstitutional statute and the enormous dollars California never had to return to taxpayers. In fact, the true story is California collected more than $1 billion of illegal taxes, and it retained much of those taxes. So to close, I just want to mention there are ample checks and balances to make sure that attorneys don't get a windfall, but without 1021.5, there is no hope for the little guy to get justice. Thank you.
Next witness's name and organization.
I might violate that just briefly, Mr. Chair. Christy Bauma, representing Muni Services Company, a competitor to Mr. Clace's HDL that you're familiar with. My only message on the record is that I have been in communications with the committee staff and the author's office. We have no formal opposition, but would be impaired from doing this work for cities if the contingency, if we believe as written, remains in the bill. So we might have to be opposed.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Next.
Jennifer Burr on behalf of Cal Chamber. We have no formal position on this bill yet since it was just amended, but we have similar concerns that were raised by the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next witness.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Lori Kammer, Coalition of Small and Disabled Veteran Businesses. Like the Chamber, we too are very concerned about the recent amendments in this bill. We've not really been able to look at really what it does. The Coalition of Small and Disabled Veteran Businesses, we represent about 17,000 of them, and we're very concerned about the bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses against or concerned? Seeing none, bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? Is there a motion? Do we have a motion? Senator Wolk, you want to close?
Very briefly, as soon as we get this in writing from Mr. Clays, that issue we'll take a look at. We think there's no good explanation or reason for the distinction between $162 in the Revenue and Tax Code and the $1,650 per hour that Northwest Energetic got in their case. We are very willing to work with, we're not interested in penalizing local government. So I do look forward to working with the opposition on these issues.
Thank you. Motion is due pass as amended. Call the roll, please.
Wolk?
Yeah, we will. Oh,
Wolk?
aye. Sorry. I was listening to...
Aye.
Aye. DeSaulnier?
Sorry.
DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Hancock? Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. Lou? Lou, aye. Fuller, no.
By the way, I voted aye on that because you're going to work with that, right?
I am.
I reserve the right to vote no on that when it comes to the floor.
Thank you. We'll make sure that you're comfortable, Senator Huff.
6-2, we'll keep that on call.
Thank you very much.
Your next item?
SB 618 has to do with Williamson Act lands. I will take the amendment that is offered in the analysis, helps to move the bill in the right direction. I believe what is being passed out somewhere is a mock-up. The amendments clarify that the expedited review applies to all marginally productive, physically impaired, or disturbed lands. They strengthen the provisions for solar use easement to allow counties to require reclamation of the land if the solar equipment is removed, as well as mitigation measures and other terms for a new solar use easement. This is the product of a lot of meetings and ongoing discussions with a broad group of stakeholders, including members of the ag community, environmental groups, solar developers, local governments, and affected agencies. We want to create incentives to steer new solar facility developments toward lands with less agricultural and habitat value as we strive toward meeting the RPS, the new RPS standard. I have with me John Gamper from the Farm Bureau, Kim Delfino. She's not here. Okay, well, Defenders of Wildlife somewhere to testify in support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
All right, witnesses in favor, keep it short. We're out of time.
Mr. Vice Chair and members, John Gamper representing the California Farm Bureau Federation. To preface my remarks, I want to remind the committee that California farmers produce over 50% of the nation's fresh fruits and vegetables, and they are the exclusive producers of many of those commodities. This measure is an effort to protect our prime farmland resources, and particularly the Williamson Act. We became aware of the bullseye that was on California agricultural land during the Renewable Energy Transmission Initiative, the READY process, when many members of the environmental community wanted to steer these large-scale solar projects away from public land and away from any previously undisturbed land. And when you do the overlay on that, that means that what's left is our prime farmland resources, and a lot of that ground is under Williamson Act protection. When I was a college student back in the 70s at UC Davis, I was told we had 10 million acres of prime farmland in the state. We're down to 8 million acres today. That's 20% loss in one generation. We can have renewable energy to run our refrigerators, but we may not have anything to put in it, so we would urge an aye vote on this measure to protect our prime farmland resources.
Thank you. Next witness in support. Keep it brief.
This is Bill Geyer with Resource Landowners Coalition. We have no official position on it, but we understand this bill to be a constructive proposal to add an additional tool to the toolbox relative to Williamson Act compliance as it relates to solar. And on that basis, it needs a lot of work yet, but as a work in progress, we support it moving out of the committee.
Other witnesses support, name and organization.
Rico Mastrodonato with the Trust for Public Land in support.
Pablo Garza with the Nature Conservancy in support.
Daniel Kim with Westside Holdings. We are developing the 5,000 megawatt Westland Solar Park in Kings County, and we are in support. We are working with the Farm Bureau and the Senator staff, as well as the committee staff, on legislation that will be taken in the Probes Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses opposed? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? We have a motion to pass. Did you? Yeah, we have Senator LaMalfa.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the effort of the bill. I do have concerns, as a longtime advocate and protector of Williamson Act. Having Farm Bureau's input on here is pretty important to allay that. I've been a little frustrated in the past at other things that might reasonably seen as compatible use with Williamson Act land, such as gravel mining, which can be reclaimed. And I've even run into situations where somebody puts a duck club on ag land and they run into problems with zoning or other aspects of that. So I would like to continue to see flexibility where truly compatible uses for Williamson Act and ag land, either reclaimed land, can continue in a good conversation going forward. And then here, I wonder just a little bit about the broadness of the definition of marginal lands or unusable lands. One person's unusable land might end up being another person's ag building or processing plant, something of that nature. So could you comment a little bit on the marginal land or unusable land? Mr. Gamper, if you want to jump in as well, I'd
John, do you
appreciate
want to speak to that? I think that has a defined definition.
Well, we're trying to provide for an independent third-party review with the Secretary of Food and Ag, so it's not just the chicken guarding the hen house on these issues. The definition of marginally productive or physically impaired is crucial to this process because we don't believe that large-scale solar facilities that cover over 70 to 90% of an agricultural parcel are compatible with prime farmland. They might be allowed with conditional use permit on non-prime land if they can mitigate for some of the impacts. So our goal is to create a definition that we can hopefully tighten up as the bill moves along, but right now this is our best thinking on the issue.
Do you anticipate if the usable life of a solar grid is over, these panels 20 years, 25 years, that should that not be what's in vogue at the time that the land would have to revert back to removing these and putting it back to an open space or an
It's our intent and the author's intent to have reclamation and surety bonds required for any term easement, any term solar easement. If it's perpetual easement, obviously it's going to be forever, like the Westland Solar Park. But if it is a 10-year term easement or the easement is eventually abandoned, then the amendments will require reclamation and surety bonds to ensure that the land is reclaimed.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Those are in the amendments that were passed out.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? We have a motion do pass as amended to approps. Call the roll, please.
Wolk?
Aye.
Wolk, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, aye. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, aye. Liu? Liu, aye.
8-0, and that bill is out. Oh, no, it's not. It's open. Somebody call Lonnie?
Yes.
All right. We're going to start. We're going to go through all the bills fairly quickly, starting in file order. SB 17, Senator Blakesley. Come closer. Vote is 4-0. It was due pass. 2 rules. Call the absent members.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. That's 8-0.
8-0, and that bill is out.
You're going to keep it open for Hancock? She's in ed and finishing her presentation.
We'll keep it open. News? Okay, well, we'll leave it open then. SB 46, Senator Correa. Please call the absent members. It is 4-0. The motion is to pass to approps.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Hancock? LaMalfa? Liu? Liu, aye. 6-0.
6-0. We'll leave that open. Item 4, SB 214. Vote is 2-2. Do pass. Recommendation, aye.
Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. 5-3.
5-3. That's sufficient to pass, but we'll leave that open. Item number 5, SB 223, Senator Leno. Motion is to pass to appropriations. Vote is 3-1. Recommendation is aye.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. The vote is 5-3.
5-3. That bill is has sufficient votes. We'll leave it open for the absent member. Item 6, SB 244. That is 4-3. Do pass to as amended to appropes.
Hancock? Lou? Lou, aye. That's 5-3.
5-3.
Item 6, I'm recorded on that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. That will remain open. The vote is 5-3. Moving on to item 7, Senator Hancock, SB 310. Do pass. Re-refer to rules. 4-3. Chair voting aye.
Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. 6-3.
6-3. That bill is out. All right. Item number 8, SB 342. The vote is 6-2. Please call absent members. No, we just did that.
You're just missing Hancock.
All right, then we'll just move on. Item 9, Senator Yee, 364. The vote is 1-0. Do pass as amended to appropriations. Please call the roll.
Huff? No. Huff, no. DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? No. Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa? No. LaMalfa, no. Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. 5-3.
5-3. That bill will that will remain on call. Item 10, SB 421. The motion, Senator Correa, do pass as amended to appropriations. The vote is 5-0.
Huff? Huff, aye. DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Hancock? Lou? Lou, aye. 8-0.
8-0 will remain open. Item 11, Senator Wright, SB 475. Do pass as amended to appropriations. 4-0. Please call the absent members or non-voting members.
DeSaulnier? No. DeSaulnier, no. Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. Hancock? Hernandez? LaMalfa? LaMalfa, aye. Vote is 6-1.
Vote is 6-1. We'll leave that open for the absent member. Senator DeSaulnier, SB 507. Recommendation do pass as amended to appropriation. Chair voting aye. 3-2.
Huff? Hancock? Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. 5-2.
5-2. We will leave that open for the absent member who's no longer absent. Going on to item. Don't. You're not. SB 618, item 14. This is do pass as amended to appropriations. Chair voting aye. Please call the absent members. Pardon? Oh, sorry. Go back. SB 583, Senator Vargas. Do pass as amendments to be taken in appropriations. Chair voting aye. Please call.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. That's 9-0.
Lo and behold, the bill is out. Item 14, SB 618. Do pass to appropriations. The vote is, I don't know what that is.
8-0.
Oh, 8-0. Please call the absent member.
Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye.
9-0. That bill is out. SB 803, Senator DeSaulnier. Let's see. Do pass to rules where it will be amended. Please call the absent members. Or
Hernandez?
Senator DeSaulnier, 803.
Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. 7-2.
7-2. That bill is out. Senator Correa, item 18. SB consent calendar. I'll get to that. SB 847, Senator Correa, do pass. Refer to rules. 5-0.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Hancock? Hancock, aye. Kehoe? Lou?
Oh, excuse me. Item 18.
The medical marijuana location issue.
I'm not voting on that.
Okay.
Okay. So we have
6-0, that bill is out. Item 20, Senator Corbett, SB 881, do pass to appropriations. The vote is 3-0.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Kehoe, aye. Lou? 6-1.
6-1, that bill is out. Senator Evans, SB 907, the vote is 3-0. It's do pass to be amended in appropriations.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Fuller? Fuller, no. Hancock? Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? LaMalfa? LaMalfa, no. That's 6-2.
6-2, that bill is out. Item 22, Senator Simitian, a constitutional amendment, number 5. The vote is 6-3. Please call the non-voting member. Oh, wait, we have everybody.
Yeah.
So that bill is out.
She just got
Okay. SCR 12, item 23, Senator Liu.
We got 3-3.
3-3, and do pass is the recommendation.
Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye.
Oh, yes.
6-3.
6-3, that bill is out. Let's do the consent calendar, items 3 and item 16, SB 194 and SB 805. Please call the remainder of the vote. Oh, the non-recorded voters.
DeSaulnier? DeSaulnier, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. That's 9-0.
9-0, the consent calendar is out. All right, we'll start again. Marathon. Senator Blakesley, item 1. What do you have left here? Okay, Senator Blakesley, SB 17, call the absent members.
Hancock?
Chair voting aye.
Hancock? Aye. That's 9-0.
9-0, that bill is out. Senator Correa, SB 46, chair voting aye.
Hancock? Hancock, aye. 7-0.
Item 4, infrastructure financing districts, SB 214, chair voting aye.
Hancock? Hancock, aye.
6-3, that bill is out. SB 223, Senator Leno, do pass to appropriations. 5-3, chair voting aye.
Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye.
6-3, that bill is out. SB 244, disadvantaged communities. 5-3 is the vote. Do pass to as amended to appropriation. Chair voting aye.
Hancock? Aye. 6-3.
Okay. We did Lonnie's bill, so the next is
342.
342, item 8, contingency fees. 6-2 is the vote.
Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. 7-2.
7-2, that bill is out. Senator Yee, SB 362, do pass as amended to appropriations. The vote is 5-3.
Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. 6-3.
6-3, that bill is out. Senator Correa, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
8-0.
SB 421, 8-0, chair voting aye.
Hancock?
And that was with amendments and everything?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, aye.
Hancock, aye. And that's 9-0.
9-0, that bill is out. Senator Wright, SB 475, chair voting aye. Do pass as amended. Vote is 6-1.
Hancock? Hancock, no.
6-2, that bill is out. DeSaulnier, item SB 507, chair voting aye. 5-2, do pass as amended to approach.
Hancock, aye. That's 6-2.
6-2, sorry. That bill is out.
Okay.
Are we done?
We're done.
All right, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.